I love this news out of Ravens camp. What is going on, everyone? My name is Sam Stewart. Welcome to Ravens Digest. We've got some big news breaking out of Ravens camp. But first, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the channel. Once again, hope everyone is doing well tonight. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You'll be doing a lot better because you're going to stay up to date with all the important Ravens news and information coming out of Ravens camp as we progress towards the season. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up, talking about things in camp. And then also once we get in the season as well, we're doing pre-game coverage and then post-game analysis as well. So make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all your Ravens news and information. All right, everyone, so let's go ahead and dive into it right now. The Baltimore Ravens have, been in camp, and we hear a lot of stories out of camp from a lot of different teams around the league, with contract extensions. For example, Hendrickson for the Bengals, Watt for the Pittsburgh Steelers, dealing with some contract issues, McLaurin for the Washington Commanders. And, what I love, just to start, is that there's none of these, big storylines coming out of Ravens camp right now. This is a team that's focused on the goal, which is to get to that Super Bowl, which is to capitalize on this championship window, which we've been talking about since this channel started a couple months ago. And, one thing that's important to consider here is, these things can leak into the season. So I'm really glad that we've got this. We're focused on the right things. Camp is going well. And one thing that I wanted to point out is that, sometimes the coverage of some of these guys and what's going on in camp that's, kind of positively benefiting the team gets talked about a lot less than, other guys are on the focus is on the guys like Trey Hendrickson and TJ Watt right now. But here's the thing. We've got, a big storyline developing, and that is Chuck Pagano. So I want to pull up this article from Jeffrey Knox. And, this is a great point I don't think a lot of people are making. And I want to, just before I talk about Malachi Starks, the player that is, the focus of this video, I want to go ahead and talk about Pagano and what some things that he has brought to this organization and what Knox has to say about him. So let's go ahead and check that out now. The last time we saw Chuck Pagano on an NFL sideline, he was the Bears' defensive coordinator. The last time Chuck was in Baltimore, he led the Ravens secondary for 3 seasons before becoming the defensive coordinator in 2011. Chuck has already won over this young group. His young safety recently spoke with media members and thanked his position coach for a 5 a.m. text message, stating, "That's how I want to be coached." Now, this player that he's referring to is Malachi Starks. Now, Starks is a absolute dog, no pun intended, came from the University of Georgia. And, when you talk about guys making the transition to the NFL, this is going to be an easy transition for Starks. He's been coached hard, working with Kirby Smart. This is if you watch any college football at all, you know that the Georgia defense is one to be feared. You know the numbers they've put over the last years, and then you know the guys they've put in the NFL. I just wanted to pull this graphic up real quick here. Let's get a little bit of a better view at it here. Mikael Williams, Jalen Walker, Malachi Starks, and then, one of the biggest, Nolan Smith as well, Travion Walker, but Jalen Carter. If you watch the Super Bowl last year, you know how much of an impact and much of a dog mentality this guy has. It's funny I keep saying dog, but I really don't mean it as a pun. These guys know how to coach, and they know how to play, rather. They know how to be coached, and they know how to bring that intensity from the Bulldogs into the NFL. And, what the specific, of a 5 a on text, the fact that he's going out here and says he wants to be coached that way, the specific detail that his coach is giving him in that moment, he wants that discipline. That just shows he's ready for the league. This is a guy who's going to make an impact right away for the Ravens. Gary, you can mark my words, he is going to have a big year this year. He's gonna. We just saw the signing of Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers. We have a couple other. He is going to be hell for these quarterbacks this season in the division and all the Ravens games in general. I think, you're really going to start to see him. It's going to be probably tough those first couple games because you do have some electric offenses in the Bills, in the Chiefs, and the Lions. But, as the season develops, you're going to see this guy who's going to wreak havoc in this division. I'm telling you that right now. So I want to check out a couple other quotes from this article. Starks is so talented that one can make the argument that bad coaching will be the only thing to prevent a supernova elevation. He won't have that issue as part of the Ravens. John Harbaugh enters year 18 at the helm. Baltimore's led on defense by Zach Orr, and the secondary is led by a familiar face who recently came home after staying out coaching for 4 seasons, that being Chuck Pagano, obviously. So when we think about it, a guy like Zach Orr really focusing on, and the organization as a whole, bringing in a guy like Starks for a passing defense that was rated second worst in the league last year, it can't help but make you excited to see this guy elevate, because you do get situations where players, if they don't end up in a good system, but this is a system, this is a franchise that has developed defensive players over the years. What we saw last year, even the improvement out of Nate Wiggins towards the end of the year, and even the way that the passing defense improved those last few regular season games, it gives you a lot of hope for this year. It gives you time to think about, what are the Ravens going to do adjustment-wise? And looking at those last few years, like, wow, this could be a great momentum booster into next year. Because, when you bring in a guy like Starks on top of that, it's going to be even better. So, one other quote I wanted to pull up here is, kind of that first point I talked about with Kirby Smart. We shouldn't be surprised. Starks cut his teeth under Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp at UGA. Long story short, he's no stranger to being coached hard. The rookie is off to a good start by catching the eye of his position coach. Chuck knows what it takes to be great in this league, having coached Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, and Terrell Suggs. He has certainly seen some talent come through the Ravens locker room, and now he has the opportunity to reach out and mold Hamilton, Starks, Nate Wiggins, Marlon Humphrey, and Chido Azue. This is a special unit. Starks couldn't have landed in a better situation. The final point that is a great point that Knox makes in this article is the fact that he's going to be surrounded by players at a high level. These are guys who know how to win. These are guys who have won the division, who have played in big playoff games. This is going to be a great situation. And Starks himself has played in big playoff games as well. And then that point I was talking about Kirby Smart, Muschamp, you have a guy here in Starks who's working with a guy in Pagano who has developed players like Starks and elevated them to the next level. Like I said, this is not just something with this year. This is a thing that Chuck Pagano has done before, and this organization has done before, talking about guys like Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, those guys who are feared, not just we got to deal with this guy. They are feared by their opponents. If you look at the way, obviously, as Ravens fans, we've seen guys like Ed Reed and Ray Lewis come through, the fear that they put in their teams, and I feel like Stark is going to be one of these guys. And I feel like guys like Nate Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey are going to continue to develop under Pagano. Look at that golden era of Ravens defense, if you could say, the players they had, the way they flew around the ball. I think you're going to see a lot of improvement, both from the personnel perspective and the scheme perspective, as we move into this year with some of the adjustments we saw last year and some of the great personnel the Ravens have added. So go ahead and let me know what your opinion is on Starks. How big of an impact do you think he's going to make this year? And do you think the pass defense will improve at all? I certainly hope so, being second last in the league. But let me know what rank you think they will be at the end of the season and what you're most excited about with this Ravens secondary this year. All right, everyone, my name is Sam Stewart. This has been Ravens Digest. We'll catch you next time.